Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bruno's MMA show, and this is the post UFC 251 episode. Let's get to it. Just basically a quick episode to share my thoughts and opinions on every single fight of the main card. First of all, Amanda Ribas versus Paige Vanzant. So obviously they gave a tough fight to Paige Vanzant because that was the last on her contract. That's what the UFC always does on someone who's on their last fight of the contract. And they basically, it's kind of like to devalue the fighter if they lose. It worked. I don't think, with all due respect, I don't think a lot of people expected Vanzant to win, and it happened really quickly. Amanda Ribas defeated her by armbar very quickly. Ribas is very good jiu-jitsu fighter. And here's the thing, though. I don't think it affects Vanzant that much. I don't mean on a personal level. Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure any defeat sucks. But I mean regarding how can I put this? This is someone who's known for her social media, not for her fighting. No, that's not right. She's known for her fighting, of course, but what I mean is her main income, she has said herself, is her social media. The fact that she's a cage fighter is just one of those things that keeps her in the conversation and differentiates her from other social influencers. I don't know what you'd call it, but whatever. So I don't even know if it matters if she's in the UFC. I don't know if the pay she gets as a fighter matters, as long as it keeps her in the conversation as, oh yeah, that's the cage fighter who also does the other stuff. For Amanda Ribas, I think it put her in the spotlight. I think it's really cool for her. A lot of people got to know her that night, and yeah, I think it's a fight that just got eyes on her, so that's really cool. Ribas is a very legit fighter, and yeah, that's awesome for her. So I'm not worried about Vanzant, and it's really good for Ribas. Moving on, Andrade versus Rose Namajunas. Yeah, basically, what was most likely to happen in the first fight happened now in the second. Like what happened in the first fight, Jessica Andrade, she set it up very well, perfectly. It was a very legit win, but it was also, again, with all due respect, like the chances were more on Namajuna's side. Um, the fighters who train with Trevor Whitman have crazy understanding of angles. It's really amazing. So yeah, Namajunas is back, is back on track, and I imagine it won't be long before we see her fight for the belt. If not the next fight, has to be the other one, right? As long as she wins. Okay, Peter Yan and Jose Aldo. It was a really good fight, and it was a very unfortunate end to that fight. And I think it needs to be reevaluated. Like this whole notion of like if the fighter's doing something, you don't stop the fight yet. Because Jose Aldo was kind of like, yeah, he would move, but it wasn't stopping the attacks. So I think at this point, like some refs need to look at, it's not just if the fighter is doing something, it's if the fighter is actually managing to defend himself. And I think if a fighter is doing stuff but it's not working in defending himself, it shouldn't count as active defense, in my opinion. And it was so morbid because that pool of blood under Jose Aldo, for every single fight after, you would see that pool of blood on the floor of the cage, and you'd be reminded of that the end of that fight. And I love watching fights. I don't like watching beatings. So that I didn't like the ending at all. I'm not the only one. Okay, Alex Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. I do think it was a close fight, but I think it was a really tough fight for both fighters. But like most people, I agree that Max Holloway was nevertheless a clear winner. Not an easy fight, but he was, in my opinion, a clear winner. The judges didn't see it that way, and I think there's something where judges, a lot of judges are really affected by if at the end of the fight a fighter is on top of the other one. It's kind of like they go like, oh, obviously he won that one. But like, okay, if the fight had continued a bit longer, the fighters would have still probably moved around. Like what I mean to say is that um, it doesn't. First of all, that's not how you should judge the sport of MMA. But even if you want to consider it a fight, it's not because at the end, when the bell rang, one guy is on top, it means he won. Because in a real fight, if that's how you want to think of it, um, you like the bell wouldn't have stopped it, and the guy on the bottom could have done something. He could have continued to do stuff and get out of there. So it's meaningless that a fighter ends on top, but I think it really influences the judges who don't know better. I think that's what happened. I think that's why Volkanovski got the belt. With all due respect to Volkanovski, that was an amazing fight. But I don't think he should have gotten the belt. I think it should have been Holloway. And this is one of those things where, yeah, on paper, Holloway's 0-2 against Volkanovski, but I think they should give him a rematch against Volkanovski. Very quickly, too, this whole conversation, that gives me a chance to discuss this whole conversation about in MMA, should the later rounds count more? No, I don't think so. But also, one thing has to be said about if you're in a sport and you know how the rounds work and how the judging works, yeah, maybe you put more into this initial rounds. Maybe you put more energy, and then like let's say out of 5 rounds, you put more energy in the first three. I'm giving an example. I'm not talking necessarily about Volkanovski and Holloway, but I do think something needs to be said about when you know how the sport works and you're in the sport. Maybe you put more energy in you bank in those as many rounds as possible, and then when you know you've got the most rounds, then maybe you go on cruise control a bit more. So whereas in a street fight you might not have done that. So that's why I also don't give any credit to how the fight ends in the context of a sport of MMA, because the fighters also act accordingly to those rules. So you can't go and judge it like a street fight if the fighters know the rules and act accordingly. Like in the sense that, let's say there's 5 rounds and I put everything in those first three, and I know I won those first three. Maybe I close the last two because I'm like, I just need to be conservative here, and I don't care if he gets a few more points as long as I don't put myself in danger, and I know I'm gonna win. Like, but if I know it's a long fight, then maybe I don't put as much energy in those first rounds. I know that's tired in the last ones. So you should, like, if MMA, the sport should never be judged like a street fight, because the fighters will also act according to the sport, where maybe they would have acted differently in a street fight. So there you go. I got a little bit off track, but the point is that it does not matter that Volkanovski wasn't top at the end. And Max Holloway should have won that, I think. And I really think should be given another rematch. Yeah, and like the thing is that it's I think it's gonna more and more, as more eyes are drawn to MMA, bad judging makes the sport look weak. It makes the sport look amateurish, and that's the thing to consider. Okay, Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Okay, I'm gonna explain something. There's a lot of people who, as soon as grappling is the main part of the fight, they go, "Oh, it's boring. They're just hugging each other," and those are casuals. Those are casuals. I love watching Khabib fights. The fight with Ben Askren and Damian Maia, you don't watch that for striking. It was amazing grappling. I loved that fight. And that was grappling there where they were really trying to finish each other. It was amazing. And Khabib, yeah, he's gonna ground and pound, he's gonna like choke, finish, like crank that neck, that jaw. They're like, just like amazing fights and finishes. And I think if you want to introduce people to grappling, you certainly can show a Khabib fight. Now, if let's be real here, because I think it's become one of those things where when people criticize like the entertainment value of a fight, other people call them casuals for not understanding the sport and all that. Okay, I want to be real here. I want to be dead honest. I don't want to deny anything that's in my heart. That was a boring fight, but I don't hold it against Usman. If that worked, like Usman is supposed to win the fight. That's what he's supposed to do. If that was working, it was up to Masvidal to get out of there, to get off the fence. If he couldn't, why would Usman stop? So, why would he risk his championship belt? There's no reason why he should do that. So yes, it was a boring fight. If I was to convince someone that grappling can be fun, I would not show them that fight at all. I would show them Khabib, maybe even Damian Maia versus Ben Askren if I'm there to kind of explain some stuff along the way. Look, my point is, yeah, sometimes fights can be boring. Look at like Adesanya and Romero. They've both done really entertaining fights, and when they took them together, that was a really boring fight to watch. It was so crushingly boring, and it's kind of the same for this one, to be honest. Maybe not as bad, but like just watching Kamaru just put Ben Askren against the fence and then stomp his foot forever. Like it's yeah. Look, people going, "Oh, you don't understand the technique of MMA." And like, hey, look. I understood what was going on, and I was bored after the first minute. So, but here's the thing, though. Again, I want to be real in that it was boring, but I want to say, like, why wouldn't he do that? We can't hold it against him. Like, can you imagine if someone's like playing basketball and he has this like easy shot and he takes in and scores points for the team? The fans wouldn't be like, "Oh, he should have thrown the ball in a more entertaining way. Why did he take that easy shot?" It's the same thing. If it worked, it worked. And the interesting part is that Usman lost stock. Like that was a chance for him to maybe defeat Masvidal, absorb his popularity to some degree. He did not. But again, look, if he's still a champion, good for him. Like in a way, it's kind of one of those things where I think he has the style to be one of the best out there. I don't think he has the style to be the most fan pleasing out there, and that's fine. Not everyone can be everything to all people. As for Masvidal, actually, I really think that it didn't drop his stock that much. I think anyone who knew about MMA, here's the thing: anyone who knew about MMA suspected that Usman would win. And if Masvidal won, it would be kind of like this, like highlight reel, really quick thing that happened in the first round or something, kind of like with Ben Askren. Um, and people who are less hardcore fans who maybe didn't understand that Usman had the chances on his side. To them, I think they're used to watching boxing. They used to think like, okay, real fighters like duke it out, like just bleed. So in that sense, like normally you're used to watch boxing and the real fighters and the refs will separate them so you can fight again. So I think they saw it more as like, oh, Masvidal was unable to fight because the guy kept hugging him. So I don't think Masvidal lost a lot of stock as far as entertainment goes, as having fun fights, as being a fan favorite. It was just a bad matchup for the both of them because Usman had an amazing fight with Covington. However, it needs to be said that Masvidal, after the fact, seemed hungry for the belt. Unlike everything he was saying before, he just wanted to get paid and all that. He seemed like he wanted the belt. And I'm very curious to see what happens next because you know what? He was defending really well the grappling of Usman. Just against the fence. I think maybe he wasn't ready for that type of grappling. He expected more takedowns in the more traditional sense. And Masvidal was defending them really well with his jiu-jitsu. And you can tell he trained with higher level wrestlers in preparation for this fight. So I'm very curious to see. Like, I'm not discounting Masvidal at all. Actually, I really think he could come back. Now, would that be enough to beat Usman? We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm not surprised with the result. But I have to admit, I didn't think it would be like pressing the guy against the fence and stopping his foot. I thought it would be more like wrestling that took to the ground, like scrambles, like entertaining grappling, basically. But it wasn't. So yeah, Usman did not become a fan favorite at all, and but he still has his belt, so he won. And I don't think Masvidal lost that much stock. Now he's got interesting fights coming. Let's say if he fought Covington, just a storyline. I don't know if stylistically the same thing would happen as with Usman. I would hope not, but at least a story going into it would be entertaining. They used to be friends. They used to be roommates. They trained together. Now they hate each other. That could be interesting. And obviously Leon Edwards. Since Gilbert Burns is the next one in line, Dana White confirmed. Let's put maybe we could put Leon Edwards against Masvidal, because of the whole three-piece of the soda. That would be interesting as well. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people were kind of saying, oh, if Masvidal fails, then it proves he's a journeyman. I don't think that's what we saw. But for sure, he needs to make adjustments at this point, and he really realized it. I think in the post-fight interview, it was, and I really believe he might. I don't know. I really believe that Masvidal is gonna get better after this. Um, and again, Usman, yeah, it was a boring fight, and I don't blame him. If it worked, it worked. That's MMA. That's fighting. If it works, it works, and it's up to the other guy to do something about it. That's what I think. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Also, when I have 1,000 subscribers, there will be some gifts. So some winners will be chosen at random. More info to come soon. And as always, thanks for watching.